On today's show, we're heading straight to Sunnydale, Hellmouth and all, to explore what Buffy the Vampire Slayer taught me about confidence, identity, grief, girl power, and, of course, how to properly slay your demons, literal or metaphorical. From the bronze to the big bads, we're diving deep into how this iconic show shaped my teenage years and how it still inspires me today to face life like the main character in my own supernatural coming-of-age movie. So grab your steak, dust off your leather jacket, and silence your inner critic, because it's time to Movify your life. Welcome to the Movify Your Life show, the plot twist you've been waiting for. I'm your host, Jessica Grace Coleman, and through the Movify Your Life method, I'll show you how to step into the starring role of your story and create a life worth watching. Every Movify Monday, you'll learn how to turn everyday moments into unforgettable memories, activate your main character energy, and use cinematic tools to boldly chase your biggest dreams, like the movie star you truly are. Because when the credits roll, I want you to look back at your life like it's the greatest film ever made, full of meaning, magic, and most importantly, zero regrets. And because I truly believe everyone deserves to live an epic life fit for the big screen. So grab your popcorn, cue the music, and together, let's Movify your life. Welcome to the Movify Your Life show. I'm your host, Jessica Grace Coleman. I'm also your chief Movifier and director of Movify Your Life. And today we're going to be talking about my favourite TV show of all time, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. But before we get to that, let's talk about what I've been watching this week. I do this at the start of every episode and see if I can apply anything from it to my life in Movify Your Life style, or if I'd like my life to be like the thing I'm watching, because I think we can take lots of inspiration and ideas from the things we consume, the media we consume on a daily basis. So the first one is Sullivan's Crossing, which I've been waiting to come on Netflix for years because I follow Scott Patterson, who was Luke in Gilmore Girls, and he is in it. He's one of the main characters in it. And also there's a couple of other, there's one other person from Gilmore Girls, Chad Michael Murray, who is very, very pretty and only seems to be getting better with age. And there's a couple of people from Virgin River, Hallmark stars. It's very Hallmarky. It's very Virgin River-y. It's set in Nova Scotia. So absolutely beautiful scenery. Makes me want to go there. It is on my list. I pretty much binged all 3 seasons because it was when I had a few days off and I went and just watched it all basically. And would I like to Movify my life like it in terms of scenery and community? Yes, absolutely. In terms of the actual storylines, no, because there is just one disaster after another. It's very soap opera-y. You know, there's always someone in hospital, there's always someone dying, someone going missing, someone's business going up in flames, someone leaving, someone cheating, someone being arrested, being sued, evil businessmen, old mines collapsing. There's a lot going on. It's like, it never lets up. So I probably wouldn't want my life to be like that. But yeah, I just wanted a few episodes in a row where everything went well and everyone was happy. But I guess you need the drama in TV and in life too, because without the drama, you don't get to appreciate the peaceful moments. So no, I wouldn't want my life to be like endless catastrophes. Yes, I would love to go and live, or at least go and visit Nova Scotia. It looks beautiful. And the second one is not really something I've been watching, but something I've been listening to. So I've been listening to the Severance podcast because I'm a huge Severance fan. I was very, very happy when season 2 came out earlier this year, and I can't wait for season 3. I thought I'd give it a shot, give it a listen, because it's Ben Stiller and Adam Scott. And Ben Stiller does a lot of directing of the episodes. He's involved in the creation of the show. Adam Scott is the main guy. He plays Mark S. And I love Adam Scott, always have since Parks and Rec. And I thought it'd be interesting to listen to them. It's really interesting because if you can find a podcast on your favorite show, or, you know, one of your favorite shows or favorite current shows, it's really great because you get to do a deep dive into that show. Even better if it's the podcast is by the people who make the show. Like, you do get lots of fan ones too, which can be great too. But you learn about all the behind the scenes stuff. You find out things that you didn't know about the casting and the crew and how they made it and why they did certain things. And they go into great detail, and, you know, a normal fan watching probably may not pick up all that great detail. Although Severance fans, I think, are a different breed. They're always looking out for little clues and things. So that's really fun. So I would recommend that if you're a fan of Severance. Obviously, if you've already watched them, then listen to it Otherwise, it's spoiler city. Would I want to movify my life in the way of severance? I don't think I'd want to undergo the severance procedure. The idea is you sort of sever your brain, your personality into two separate entities so that one of you can go to work and one of you doesn't have to go to work. And you don't remember what the other person has done. You don't know who the other person is. Like, they're called innies and outies, and the innies have no idea who their outies are. They don't know what their real life is like outside the office, and their whole life is the office. So as soon as they end their day, they start it again because they don't have any recollection of the other half of them. It's really, really interesting in terms of psychology and stuff like that. I personally wouldn't want to undergo the severance procedure because I like my work. I don't need to forget it. But also, once you go under the severance procedure, you essentially create a new human personality. And if you decide to stop doing the severance thing, then that personality dies. And they're essentially trapped in an office prison for their entire life. And that's all they know. And they never see the sky. So that sounds pretty shit, doesn't it? You don't want to do that to someone, and you don't want to do it to yourself. But they do have some pretty fun things like egg bar socials, waffle parties, music dance experience with Mr. Milchek. I love Mr. Milchek. Such a great character. I'm really hoping he turns out to be like this epic person who takes down the whole company or something. He's kind of a baddie at the moment. He works for the Lumen company, who is in charge of all the severance stuff. And there's a lot of shady stuff going on, but I love Mr. Milchek. And I'd also love to meet Rick and Hale and discuss his self-help book, The You You Are. If you've watched Severance, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I just love it. And you can actually get that book on Apple Books. They created a version of it for the fans. So that's really cool. Okay, so that's what I've been watching and listening to recently. And now I want to go on to Buffy the Vampire Slayer, because it is my favourite TV show of all time. And I will watch it over and over and over again. And it was like significantly impacted my teenage years, so my formative years. So if you haven't seen Buffy, the TV show, yet, don't listen to this episode if you're going to watch it, because it is spoiler city. But it's been quite a few years, so I think a spoiler warning probably isn't needed. Now, I do want to mention the whole Joss Whedon thing. He was kind of cancelled. I hate that word, but he was cancelled for how he treated a lot of people, especially women, on his shows. And obviously, I don't know anything about that. I have no idea. I haven't really delved into it, but I just want to say, as I've said before on this show, that even if someone is cancelled, doesn't mean you have to stop, I don't think, watching or loving the thing they've created, because that is one man, and the thing he's created involved hundreds, maybe thousands of people over the years, cast, crew, everything behind the scenes, and it is them that created the show in my eyes. And it, for something like Buffy, it's impacted so many people in so many positive ways. So I don't think we should dismiss the show. Just be aware of things like that. And yeah, just do your own research if you want to. I don't want to go into it on here because I don't know the facts. So despite all that, it is still my number one show of all time. And I think part of it is because of when it was released, how old I was. So it first aired in May 1997 and I was 10, and ran until May 2003, when I was 17. Though I was in the UK, so I think we got it like a year later, so maybe 11 to 18, but basically most of my teen years. And as the Spice Girls were around at a similar time, and I was a big Spice Girls fan, I grew up being surrounded by girl power. Between Buffy and the Spice Girls, I really think this had a big effect on my development. I saw that women could be global pop stars, they could be slayers, they could be the star of their own epic TV show, they could do anything, and I think that really sort of made me think that I could do anything and I don't have to be limited just because I'm female. So that's one thing Buffy taught me, that girls, and I'm using air quotes there, can be strong, powerful, and can kick ass in all kinds of ways. So if you don't know Buffy the Vampire Slayer, go and watch it. First of all, it's amazing. Some of it is a little dated, and some of the characters now that were beloved characters back then are getting a lot of flack now with the new generation watching it, and I understand why. In the time that I watched it, I loved them all. Well, not all of the characters. Yeah, it's basically about a girl called Buffy who becomes a woman called Buffy. She is in high school and she's a vampire slayer. But this doesn't just mean vampires, it means all kinds of demons and baddies. And it's her job. She is the one girl in all the world, the chosen one. And it's up to her to rid the world of evil. Although she's basically ridding Sunnydale of evil, which is where she lives in California, fictional town. And it is set on a hellmouth. So they get lots of evil baddies and demons and wiggly things to fight. Each Slayer has a watcher, and her watcher is Giles, English librarian at their school. Amazing. Love Anthony Stewart Head so much. And she has the Scooby Gang, which are her friends who know she's a Slayer, and everyone else, she's meant to keep her identity a secret from them. As I was in high school myself at the time, And as I said, it pretty much spanned my entire high school career, including sixth form. I very much appreciated and understood the initial metaphor that started the whole show and was relevant for the first 3 seasons, which I think are the best seasons. They're the most iconic. And that metaphor is high school is hell. So the idea was that, yeah, high school's hell for everyone. This is literally hell because it's not a hellmouth and there's demons and things. So the show, looks at demons and the slaying and vampires and all that mystical, supernatural stuff, but it also looks at the hell of growing up and going to school and not feeling like you belong and all those, great things. So my high school didn't have actual demons, but it had plenty of metaphorical ones, as I'm sure yours did as well. The bullies, feeling like you don't fit in, feeling awkward because you're awkward teenage years. Hormones are all over the place. You've got exam pressure. You've got, just general day-to-day school pressure, trying to figure out what you want to do when you leave school. That's a big one. Trying to figure out who you are, your identity, what your style is, who you want to be, making friends, making enemies. High school is a lot. And Buffy's high school, Sunnydale High, had all that, plus actual monsters. And although it was an American high school, and therefore seemed a lot cooler than my high school in the middle of England, I could relate. I think that's what so many people got out of watching it, especially the first 3 seasons. If they were in high school themselves, they could relate to all of this. And I think it taught me a lot about friendship and loyalty and community and belonging with the Scoobies, Scooby Gang, and all the people that ended up being Scoobies. So there was Willow, Xander, Cordelia, Oz, and of course Giles, the father figure, the head, the mentor. It sort of taught me before I got to that point myself about the challenges of growing up and moving on. So when they leave school after season 3, they go to university, or college as they call it. And the first episode of season 4, which Pedro Pascal is in as Eddie. Another reason why I love Buffy, it has loads of my favourite actors popping up all over the place. So that episode 1 of season 4, Buffy goes to college, and it's a really good depiction, I think, of how lost you can feel when you move on to that next phase of life. So going from primary school to high school, going from high school to university, leaving university and being out in the world, it's all very scary. And that's even without vampires. It's a lot about identity, so figuring out who you are and what you stand for. It's all about not letting the darkness in and letting it change your identity during periods of extreme horror or grief. So we have Dark Willow coming out when she goes through a particularly horrible moment in her life. And it taught all kinds of things, but it's at its heart, I think it's about obviously friendship, loyalty, but it's about empowerment, and empowerment in all kinds of ways. So it taught me that being a book nerd was okay and actually kind of cool. Willow, huge book nerd. And it taught me that these people are just as important in apocalypses than the physical fighters. And I guess in a weird way, I wasn't planning on comparing this to COVID. But obviously during COVID, it's the scientists and the book nerds, the geeks, the nerds that we relied on to make the vaccines and all that stuff. Because some things you can't physically fight. It made me want to own my own super cute magic shop, definitely. And it also, I want to apologise, by the way, I've had a cold for the past 2 weeks and my voice is going a bit weird and I have to keep stopping to drink water. So let's continue this fight on, as Buffy would. And although the Scoobies complain about the small townness of Sunnydale all the time, they call it a 1 Starbucks town instead of a 1 horse town, it also made me sort of long to live in that kind of small American town. That's a theme that comes up a lot in my other favourite TV shows, so Gilmore Girls, Schitt's Creek, stuff like that. And I think it also probably started planting the seeds for me wanting to go to America for my year abroad, which I did at university, because I wanted to experience America and going to school, going to college there myself. And I'm really glad I did. I went to Colorado. Amazing. I also longed to go to the Bronx as a teenager. I think any teenager, especially English teenagers, British teenagers watching it, growing up, you wanted somewhere cool like that. A cool club to go and hang out as a teenager, even before drinking age. And we have clubs and stuff, but in my neck of the woods, we didn't have anything like that. We had youth clubs and that was about it. The show also delves into deep, really deep topics such as grief. And the episode The Body is a brilliant piece of TV, although I haven't been able to watch it since my own mom passed away, as it's about Buffy's mom dying and it's devastating, but it's done so well. I think it won lots of awards and rightly so. What I will say is I don't think it's done good things in terms of my expectations of men. This is when people grow up watching Disney and their notion of romance and men or whatever is really skewed because you're expecting Prince Charmings all over the place. And generally that is not how it goes. So yeah, Buffy is full of brooding, dark, mysterious, sexy vampires in long leather coats. So growing up, I think I was an Angel fan. As I got older, Spike became my favourite. He's so awesome, so funny. Let's not mention Riley, as I said. He doesn't go in with the whole sexy brooding thing. But I think, watching all these sexy brooding vamps in long leather coats didn't really make for realistic expectations of the kind of guys you think you're going to meet when you grow up. But never mind, we can forgive you, Buffy. It also looks at things like addiction. So Willow's addiction to dark magic becoming a metaphor for drug addiction, as well as other vices. There's like an episode called Beer Bad, where a bunch of college guys and Buffy drink too much mystical beer and turn into cavemen and women. And not everyone likes that episode because it's very silly, but I think it's very fun. And it's pretty much spot on in terms of what happens to some people when they drink too much. So, they had those episodes where it's like, drugs are bad, beer is bad. But, I think in that era of time, all those TV shows had sort of public service announcement episodes. So there's also themes of authority. So Buffy and the other Slayers, Kendra and Faith. So there's only one Slayer at a time, but Buffy technically dies at the end of season 1 and Kendra gets called, and then Kendra dies and Faith gets called. They have issues with the Watchers Council. So that's a group of stuffy, older, white men in England who call the shots with the Slayer, which makes no sense considering she's in California. But I guess, they looked after all the Slayers from the beginning of the Slayer line. And it just happened to be based in England, which I find funny. There's people like the school head teacher, the mayor, Buffy's teacher, who turns out in university, who turns out to be the head of a government monster fighting squad. There's lots of themes with authority and people who are meant to be in charge of others and looking after others, who either don't do a good job or who are, actively evil. So I learned a lot about sort of questioning authority and not just going along with someone because they're wearing a white lab coat or because they say they're the head of an institution. It doesn't mean they're always right. And I think that made me sort of question things more growing up.
Okay, movie star, real talk. Are you tired of feeling like a background extra in your own life? Then it's time to step into the spotlight and activate your main character era. And I've got just the thing to help you do it. Grab my free Movie Star Alter Ego Starter Kit, your behind-the-scenes pass to creating the bold, brave, action-taking version of you who goes after their dreams like the star of a blockbuster. Inside, you'll discover how to design your alter ego, choose your transformational item, pick your theme song, and build the rituals and confidence cues you need to start living your life like the epic movie it was meant to be. So, if you're ready to rewrite your script, roll camera, and finally take the lead, head to movifyyourlife.com/free to download your free starter kit now. That's movifyyourlife.com/free. Your next scene starts today. And now, let's get back to the action.
There are lots of themes about being different and how it's okay to be different, which when you're growing up, you're a teenager, that is really nice to hear, obviously. So they had, like werewolves. Oz turns out to be a werewolf. As I said, spoilers galore in this episode. And there's a funny bit I like where he's talking to Willow and sort of saying, like, I hope we can make this work. He turns into a werewolf 3 nights a month. So on the full moon and then the night before and the night after. And Willow compares turning into a werewolf for 3 nights a month to 3 days a month she's on her period and not exactly herself either, which I think is quite funny. There's Buffy being the chosen one, so no one else can understand her life, the pressure she's under. Just themes about being the one who has to make all the decisions, who has to be responsible, who has to sacrifice things in her life and sometimes sacrifice her own life for the benefit of others and for the greater good. And there's lots of episodes based around fear itself, nightmares, and how our fears can define us, which is really interesting. And also I think an important thing to mention is that in Buffy, sometimes the baddies aren't the demons and the monsters and the gods. One of them is a god, Glory. They can be just a trio of nerds who get a little out of hand and become unstuck from reality, and then one of them gets their hands on a gun. So it's not always the supernatural stuff you have to look out for, it's just human nature, human behaviour, and human-made weapons. So there is something that happens in season 2, which I think affected lots of people growing up, especially women, and women who date men who maybe are really nice to you until you sleep with them, and then they instantly become a dick. I think that's a theme for most women around the world. And Buffy took this idea, this universal theme that a lot of people could relate to, and just made it into this insane storyline where Buffy sleeps with Angel, and thanks to an ancient curse, so Angel is a vampire, but he's a good vampire. But when she sleeps with him and achieves a moment of pure happiness, is it called pure happiness? One moment of happiness. I can't remember how they phrase it. He literally loses his soul and turns into Angelus, the evil vampire. The most evil vampire who ever lived as well, to top it all off. So they sort of took the idea of, dating a guy and then it's all nice and happy and then you sleep with him and he turns into a dick. to the whole other next level. And I like how they take things like that, sort of most people can relate to on a daily basis, or, generally in their life, but turn it into this huge mystical supernatural thing. But the metaphor still makes sense. So there were themes around parenting and father figures, like Buffy's dad is really quite shit, and Giles becomes her father figure. Choosing your own family, like the Scooby Gang. And I also love the themes of people coming together, even unlikely people, to fight a common enemy. So at the start, Cordelia, she's a great character. She was against the Scoobies for a long time, but she fought with them when she had to. And I love the last episodes of season 3, Graduation Parts 1 and 2, where the baddie is the mayor, who is going to turn into a giant snake at their graduation ceremony, of course. And there's this whole thing throughout the series where no one knows that Buffy's the Slayer, but so many weird things happen at that school that they start to, figure out something's going on. She's helping them against something, but they don't really know what. And then at the end, in the graduation episode, it turns out, we don't know it until the graduation, but everyone sort of turns into an army to fight the mayor, giant snake demon. And they also blow up the school, which is very dramatic and sort of ends the high school is hell theme quite well until they rebuild it in the last season. So there are themes of sacrifice, Buffy sacrificing herself for her sister in The Gift, which was the end of season 5, which is a really, really great episode, always makes me cry. I love Buffy's message to Dawn. The hardest thing in this world is to live in it. Be brave, live, for me. It was just really great writing, and I think it, taught a lot of people, a whole generation of people, that yes, it's hard to live in this world. Sometimes the hardest thing in this world is to live in it, but you have to be brave, you have to live, you have to go on. And I think that hit a lot of people. And then it also delves into funny things like alternate realities, like the land with no shrimp and the land with all shrimp. If you're a Buffy fan, you'll know what I'm talking about. As well as the sort of more heavy, complex notions of things like heaven and hell, or many different hell dimensions. So Angel gets sent to a hell dimension. Buffy's friends thought she was in hell when she died, but she was in heaven. And the whole implications of ripping her out of there just so they could selfishly have her back on Earth with them. I'm not saying that taught me anything about life particularly, but it does get you thinking about heaven, hell, different realities, what you believe in, what you think they're like. I think it's really interesting. We had a Slayer going rogue, Faith, and then redeeming herself in the Angel spin-off. I do like the show Angel, but it's not as rewatchable for me as Buffy is. I will rewatch Buffy over and over again. I think I've only seen Angel a few times, like the whole way through. But Cordelia is really great in Angel as well. We had the musical episode, which is the best. I loved it. We have love and loss and fighting for what's right, a big theme. Doing whatever it takes to help people. Literally whatever it takes. There's one time Buffy had to save the world, literally by killing the love of her life, Angel, when he'd just been redeemed, just come back from being Angelus. She had to send him to hell. And she did it to save the planet. Good on you, Buffy. One of my favourite episodes is Hush in season 4, where everyone lost their voices. What an amazing episode of TV. It's mostly silent in terms of dialogue. There's great music. And the gentlemen are really creepy antagonists. It's a masterful piece of storytelling because they don't really talk, apart from right at the start. And yeah, we had, basically it was just 7 years of brilliant, fun, funny, empowering, heart-wrenching at times storytelling. And that has stayed with me ever since and always will. And if you've watched my Movify Your Life movie-mentary, you can find the link in the show notes. You will know that I reference Buffy a lot. I also have a terrible Buffy costume, which was just a terrible blonde wig and a giant cross necklace and a leather sort of biker jacket. And I'm ridiculous, but I had to get it in there because I just love it. And here's something you can do. So Buffy is one of my favourite fictional characters of all time. And I often think, what would Buffy do? So, you've got a situation, you don't know what to do, you don't know what is right or wrong. Ask, what would Buffy do? Because Buffy pretty much always did the right thing for the world, for everyone else, for the people she loved. And she was powerful, brave, bold. I mean, she had superpowers, so that helped with being brave and bold. But she never backed down, even when she didn't want to be the Slayer, didn't want to be the chosen one. So what would Buffy do? And actually, Buffy was my main inspiration for my first alter ego I ever created. I'm sure you've heard me talk about alter egos. And the first one I created was called Veronica Summers. And Summers is Buffy's last name, and Veronica is a name I've always liked. She became my alter ego for my movie-mentary, Veronica Gilmore, to go with the Gilmore Girls. And yeah, I think it's my aim in the future to get a pet and name her Buffy, or perhaps someone else from the Buffyverse, like Rupert Giles. But the full name, Rupert Giles. I did have a lovely ginger cat called Spike when I was growing up. while I was watching Buffy, but we got in before Spike the character was ever a thing, but I like that he had a pet called Spike. And one of the things I love about Buffy is that it has such a huge cast because it spans 7 seasons, and there's always a new big bad every year, maybe more than one. And a lot of these people go to like Comic-Con type events where you can pay to get a photo with them or an autograph. I have met a few of them either at Comic-Con events or their own events. So I've met Emma Caulfield, who played Anya, Nicholas Brendan, who played Xander, Claire Kramer, who played Glory, and I also attended a hockey game in the US, and David Boreanaz, Angel, was in the crowd. But I think if I met Sarah Michelle Gellar or Anthony Head or James Masters, I think I would lose the plot. But I love that, you know, you can go and meet these people and there's not much of a barrier there. You have to pay for some of them if you're on a Comic-Con type thing, but I would totally pay to meet my heroes, the people who played all these characters that mean so much to me. So I love shows where you can actually go and meet a lot of the people in it. And of course, they're just at the moment creating a pilot for a new, it's not a reboot, it's a continuation, Buffy the Vampire Slayer with Sarah Michelle Gellar reprising her role and a few others coming back, and then like a new generation of Slayers, or the next Slayer. So I'm really looking forward to that. I know a lot of people are like, don't mess with it, it's perfect, but you know, you don't have to watch it if you don't want to, and if you watch it and don't like it, you can pretend it never happened and just binge watch the first 7 seasons all over again. So I know that was a big ramble. I'm still recovering from a cold, so my brain isn't braining as much as it usually is, but so some of the lessons I've learned from Buffy, plucking out of that rambling that I just went on, a big idea is that girls can be the hero, and not just, in quotes, for a girl. They can be the hero. They can be strong and soft, powerful and playful, leaders and learners, and they can kick ass in 1,000 ways. And strength isn't a one-size-fits-all. It doesn't mean one thing. Buffy fights, and she's brave, and she's powerful in that way. Willow researches, and then later helps with magic. Giles mentors. Anya speaks the brutal truth. There's a lot of different ways you can be strong and be useful and be powerful. There's the idea that being a hero isn't this vast, huge thing. It can just be ordinary and ongoing. It can be every day. There's a line in one of the episodes, the one with the magical snow at Christmas. Strong, I'm going to have to look this up. Okay, I just Googled it. This is from Amends, season 3. And the quote is, strong is fighting. It's hard and it's painful and it's every day. It's what we have to do and we can do it together. And I love that because it's not just the huge epic moments where you have to step up to the plate and do something incredibly brave to be strong. It is every day. It is getting up in the morning every day and continuing even when you don't feel like it. And that's a big theme in the whole show. I love how it's sort of turned femininity equals weakness on its head. Buffy is a fighter. She wears leather trousers and boots, but she also wears sparkly tops and lip gloss and always has a head, and none of it cancels out all the other stuff. So I really loved that. Obviously, we've talked about high school as hell. Totally agree with that. The Scoobies and everything I learned about friendship and loyalty and belonging to a group, identity, how that can change as you get older, and how you have to not let the darkness and the horrible things in life, like grief and loss, change you as a person. You can still be yourself, and you can still be hopeful for the future and brave and fight, even when everything seems like it's lost. A big theme is nerds can save the world. It's cool to be a library kid. Research literally prevents apocalypses, and I really like that idea and that message. There's things I mentioned before: authority, addiction, grief, fear. Sometimes the monster is human, like the trio. They were the big bad for one season. They were just 3 nerdy guys, and they can do just as much damage as a demon. You know, the stuff about father figures, chosen family, parenting. If you haven't watched it, just watch it. It's amazing. As I say, some of it can be a little dated. Some of the jokes maybe a little like, ugh, but it was, you know, quite a while ago now, and I watched it as it happened, and that is a sort of moment in time captured forever on TV. That's how I think of things, even if they seem dated. Yeah, that's it. 7 seasons of brilliant, funny, empowering, heart-wrenching, as I said, storytelling. I will never stop watching it. I'll never stop rewatching it. I can't wait for the new one. Hopefully it gets picked up. I'm not sure if they're just doing a pilot or if they're doing a whole season. And I wanted to turn this around to you. So whether you liked Buffy or not, if you've watched it or not, I want you to take a moment and ask yourself, if you had to pick, and I know it's hard, what is your number one favourite TV show of all time? And you can do it with films as well. Obviously, this is Movify Your Life, so I talk a lot about movies, but I think there's something special about TV shows when you have so long to get used to the characters and see them grow and see their arcs over several seasons, see how they change and get better and improve and all that good stuff, which you don't get in a movie. Even if you get, a movie franchise, you still don't spend as much time with the characters as you do. Like with Buffy, there was 7 seasons of apart from the first season, which was 12 episodes, all the other seasons are 22 episodes. Same with Gilmore Girls. It's 7 seasons of 22 episodes. You spend a lot of time with these characters. And I think that's something special with that. So what is your favorite TV show of all time? Especially if it was from back in the day when you were growing up and you watched it during your formative years. These people sort of kind of become your friends or family if you're a lonely child, and they can shape you more than you realize. And I want you to pick the one, and then write down what you loved about it, what themes, metaphors there were, the lessons you learned by watching it, and then journal or reflect or meditate on how these things affected you growing up, how they impacted your life, because I think a lot of the time they impact us and we don't even realize it until we actually sit and think about it. And then if you haven't watched this show in a while, go and watch it, or at least watch an episode or two. And if you have a show that you absolutely love and you want to watch it again, a really great thing to do is to who hasn't seen it and who you think will like it, and then rope them in and watch it with them, because it's kind of like watching it through new eyes. And then you can both geek out about it afterwards together. So I think that's a really good exercise to do. Please let me know your favourite TV show of all time and why, because I always love getting recommendations as well. So email me at action@movifyyourlife.com or DM me on Instagram at movifyyourlife. Links are in the show notes. And I usually do a Movify the Moment segment at the end of an episode, but I've been rambling for a while and my voice is a bit iffy and I'm feeling a bit coldy. So I'm going to stop there. But I was going to do, how could you Movify your high school years? So if you hated high school like I did, could you go back and go over the reasons why you hated high school and see how you would change it now, how you would react differently now, and how you could Movify your life, like pretending you were in a high school movie, a college movie, an American college movie. You could form your own Scooby Gang if I'm taking lessons from Buffy. And you could think of when you left it as being the graduation scene, the final scene in an epic college movie or high school movie, and just think about how you would do things differently. I think that's always an interesting exercise. If there's something you didn't like in your past, how would you do it differently now based on what you've learned in your life so far? Especially thinking about TV shows and movies and characters and storylines and things like that. How would you change your high school years if you could? And if you want to, you might have loved high school, in which case you don't need to do this. But I'm going to have to stop there because my voice is going and I need to go and blow my nose and drink all the water. So thank you for listening. That's it. Go forth and ask yourself, what would Buffy do? Thanks for listening. And until next Movify Monday, that's a wrap. And I will see you on the red carpet.
Thank you so much for listening to the Movify Your Life show. Before you go, don't forget to sign up for the main character memo mailing list at movifyyourlife.com/list for exclusive tips, treats, and behind the scenes magic. And if you enjoyed this episode, I would really appreciate it if you could please subscribe, leave a review, or share this podcast with a friend. Let's spread that Movify message far and wide, because everyone deserves to live an epic life fit for the big screen. I'll see you next week for another Movify Monday. Until then, that's a wrap.